absorption or attenuation of sound. In the downtown area, this becomes a much more complex issue because we have very little to absorb sound. We have hard surface, we have water, we have high-rise buildings, and there's very little to absorb the sound and the vibration. This is an acoustical engineering issue, and we haven't even talked about it in terms of the science of acoustics yet. My position, and Pete's going to say I'm waffling, is that unless we can attenuate the sound impacts, I believe that the compromise that was reached in 2003 should hold, and that no, we should not change the sound ordinance unless and until we can be assured that the sound can be attenuated. I go with the residents.
Thank you. In deference to the setting and the environment we are in, the last shall be first. You will keep the microphone, Ms. Chapman. And the question is...
These cards? Can you collect these cards?
Sure. Yeah.
How do you do that? Nobody has ever...
Okay. Thank you very much. Bring them up. All right. And the next question. The City Commission also functions as the Community Redevelopment Agency. There are some people who believe that the CRA's existence beyond 2016 is dependent upon us becoming clearly independent of the City Commission. As Commissioner, would you be in favor of such independence, and how will you approach working with the county and continuing the CRA funding beyond the sunset date of 2016?
I think the Commission should be the CRA in order to make sure that there is representation. The Commission is elected, and theoretically they represent the public. With regard to the sunsetting of the CRA, we need to make sure that there is funding for community redevelopment efforts. And what we're talking about in terms of community redevelopment efforts are taking tax increment financing and using it for community redevelopment. Does it need to extend beyond the sunset date? It depends on it depends on the recession. I think the recession, we're coming out of it. It depends on how much progress we're making on coming out of the recession. I would say it probably does need to be extended because it's been a really tough atmosphere, and we're just barely coming out of it. So I do favor that the Commission remain as the CRA. I do think that sometimes the county doesn't understand that we are in the city are county taxpayers as well. We pay dual taxes in order for the benefit of living in the city core, and we need to make sure that the county is aware that we're very interested in county government as well.
Thank you. Ms. Holland.
I do support a continuation of the CRA, but I do believe that it needs to be an independent. It needs to be independent of the City Commission. When I sat on the CRA advisory board back in 1988, that was the beginning of the work that the CRA did downtown. So I know how important it was. I know the struggles that we went through in helping the community understand the TIF funding, and it's been successful, and I think that we need to continue it. At that time, when I went off of the CRA advisory board in 1991, there was also talk at that time of it being an independent agency. And that never came to fruition, but I think that it probably has more value doing that it can work independently of the City Commission. And I believe that working with the county, we can get them to understand how important it's going to be to continue that. So I would, as a city commissioner, would work very closely with the county to ensure that.
Mr. Dorfman.
I too believe the CRA is a very effective tool. I would be a very strong supporter of its continuation, and I too believe it should be treated by, or should be governed by an independent board. I think if it is, continues to be governed by the city commission, I think it's subject to whim. I think it's subject to political interest, as so many of our decisions in Sarasota are. I would definitely support an independent board. And I would also support an independent board because there's been discussion about how this money is distributed, and there's been a lot of discussion. We were in Newtown doing a forum last night. There's been a lot of discussion as to how that money is equitably distributed. And I think that's something we have to look at. I personally don't feel there's an equitable distribution now. So I think if we had an independent board looking at this with no skin in the game, the CRA funds could probably be distributed and used more effectively. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tyson.
Well, the notion that they'd be independent or not, if they were subject to a separate election, well, it seems to me that the developers would just corrupt those candidates too, that's all. I don't see where it needs to be anybody other than the commissioners as it is, because after all, it's been functioning like that for a while. The only people that would be dissatisfied with the people who are not getting enough money. And that's always going to be subject to politics. So if you have a separate election and separate payrolls, another layer of people that are getting paychecks, and another layer of people who have loyalties to people that we pretty well know their loyalties or their interests are different than the neighborhood. I don't know, I think we might as well, if we have to have a CRA, we'll go ahead and let it be the commissioners.
Thank you. Ms. Atwell?
Yeah, I'm strongly in support of extending the CRA beyond 2016. The county, it's going to be a difficult issue there because we talked about that at one of our latest city-county meetings, but I'm a firm believer in that. And I think we need a new makeup. I believe in an independent CRA, or I'm already thinking of names. We have an amazing group of people in this community that would effectively work, be a representative for a CRA, and perhaps having one elected official from the commission that would serve on it. And we're looking into that. Because I think, I agree with, I'm not sure who said that, you know, I've acted as the CRA for 4 years. It can be politically charged. I'm sorry, it can be. So I think we need a real balanced group, independent, tapping the talent that we have in our community to sit on that. And I think the future of it will change dramatically, and I think that's great.
Thank you. Mr. Lumpkin.
Thank you. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, I would definitely be in favor of extending the CRA and anything that removes politics out of it. I would lean towards independence. Of course, on this side of the commission, that's how I see it. And as a commissioner, at that time, if I'm on, when we address that, I'll make the best decision possible at that time. But I definitely would lean towards independence of the CRA. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have a number of questions that have come in from the audience that specifically relate to density, high-rise growth in downtown, as opposed to some obtainable housing, as the term is being used. So I'm going to ask you to try to put that in this your answer relative to this question that I'm going to ask you. There is growing concern that zoning restrictions, especially as they apply to the downtown area with regard to density, concurrency, and the like, has a very negative impact on promoting growth and diversity of population downtown. Do you share this concern? And if not, why not? And if so, what would you as a commissioner try to do about it? First person up is Ms. Holland.
Peter, could you repeat that?
Sure. Okay. Let me try it again. There is growing concern that zoning restrictions, especially as they apply to the downtown area with regard to density, concurrency, and the like, has a very negative impact on promoting growth and diversity of population downtown.
Well, I think we always need to look at the zoning code and as we change as a city, how we need to change that. The density issue, I think again we have to be very careful with all of these issues, but I think that they're always need to be revisited continually. So I guess I'm stumbling a little here because I don't have any specifics of that, but I'm open for looking at all of those issues and with an open mind.
Thank you. Ms. Chapman?
Oh, wow, I don't have enough time in 2 minutes to talk about this. First of all, I've heard in this campaign, and I've heard about 200 units an acre, or 500 square foot apartments, or reinvigorating the downtown residential overlay district in order to create attainable housing. Back when we dealt with the attainable housing density bonus last time, there was a study by Economic Research Associates, and they said a density bonus would not work. We continued forward with the DROD, and 5 buildings were authorized under the DROD. 1 was actually built, and it did not produce attainable workforce housing. There were units in that building, but it did not actually produce attainable workforce housing. We went through a several year, it seemed like, process in order to get the downtown master plan. That was the Duany plan. And when we went through that Duany plan, it was a very public process. I would not favor changing that process without a totally new public process. With regard to concurrency, I've been told by planning staff 200 units an acre does not meet transportation concurrency.
Thank you. Mr. Tyson?
Well, the only way you can have concurrency, you don't have it now. You're 50 years behind on transportation. Anybody who drives knows that we've got a traffic problem. Now, if you build more stuff, well, if you build it, they will come. And they will come in cars. While they're there, they will park the cars. And then when they leave, they will leave in cars, and you will have even more traffic. So, what this question is actually asking is, well, how about if you just do away with concurrency and do away with density restrictions? Well, then you'd have a worse problem, wouldn't you? I think you would. Quite a lot worse. And so, no, you're going to have to always have concurrency and always restrict density to the transportation that's available, or the new transportation that you're making available, if you're making any available. So far, they haven't made any available in Coon's age.
Thank you. Mr. Dorfman?
I'm in favor of more density. The author of our master plan, Duany, said density is codeword. Density allows you to build out, bring more people downtown. It puts less of a strain on our infrastructure than trying to pipe houses over vast areas. And it also works for concurrency. If you are living downtown and working downtown and playing downtown, you don't get into your car. I lived in New York and London. I've only lived in big cities till I came to Sarasota. I've never had a car till I came here, more or less. I think we have to address the issue of making housing that is affordable for our young professionals, for people who are our workforce professionals, for people who would like to be living downtown, who would like to be adding to our economic base downtown. And we do that by making rental housing that is affordable to them. We do that, and to build affordable buildings, you have to have enough small units to make it profitable. So yes, in order to achieve that, we have to have density. I think it is a win-win for the downtown folks. I think it brings more people in, it works for concurrency, it supports our tax base, and it's less of a strain on our infrastructure.
Thank you. Mr. Lumpkin.
Thank you. I absolutely am for a downtown where people live, work, and play. And I am a proponent of greater density. Now, I am a bit skeptical that we're going to have affordable housing downtown. That may be a challenge. But I do think greater density will help our economic base. And I really think greater density is going to be even greater in the Rosemary District, will serve the city greater. I think we could legitimately have affordable housing in that area that's going to help all of us as well. And so I believe that downtown, and I've said many times before, I believe is the key to the city's prosperity. And I believe you can measure the city's health by how prosperous its downtown is. And I believe increasing density is going to be a key to helping downtown prosper even more. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Atwell.
Yeah, we need to, I want to take another look, and you know, maybe it didn't work in the past. I want to take another look at the drawing. We need to take it out of the hope chest and dust it off and look at it. Density, you know, density is environmental. Density is multimodal. Density, it makes it affordable. We need to start treating density, and this is because of how we've emerged in this city. We need to start treating density not as though it's the elephant in the room. For years that I have been here, I've heard all about density. Long before I was a commissioner, it was up in this corner, up in that corner. We need to get it as a centerpiece and figure out how to do it. And this is a work in progress. I firmly believe we need live, work, play more downtown. We need some lofts or apartments over the store. We need to get some anchor stores. And by the way, we have some people in the community that are willing to do that. It just needs a can-do attitude from the leadership. But we need to really, really look into that now. Now's the time. I don't want to look back in the past. I want to see what we can do now with what's happening downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, and you will keep the microphone for the next question. I'm going to change the pace a little bit here.
Lightning round?
I'm going to ask the audience, give me a show of hands, how many of you drove to this meeting as downtown residents? Thank you very much. As you know, we're having a March 20 and 21 walkability meeting. You'll be seeing more about this, in which author Jeff Speck will be coming into town to talk to us about how to make our community more walkable downtown. And based on that show of hands candidate, what does this mean to you as it relates to traffic and walkability? And I'll start with Ms. Atwell.
Well, I'd start with going on the website with our Let's Get Moving Sarasota, our mobility plan. I am a real strong proponent of our mobility plan on so many levels, and that's all about getting a mobility fee that will look to the development community, that will, the mitigation that they have to have makes sense. It makes environmental sense. It's all about multimodal. It's about using mobility fees for more than just lining out a line out to the suburbs. We need to focus on downtown, compact cities. Let's get moving, let's get a circulator. I'm a strong believer in a circulator, and I'm very much looking forward to that meeting. I just signed up for it. I'm reading his book. How we can, when he comes, and I've read a lot of things, how Sarasota can meet that model. We have to do that now. It's environmental. People have been writing this. Actually, a former commissioner wrote a great deal about what density can do for this community as far as transportation, multimodal, and all that. So I'm on board with all that, and I'm looking forward to that meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Tyson?
Well, that was an interesting poll question that a number of people walked here tonight. Of course, we've got probably 2,500 housing units within a block of here. And so I'm not surprised that some people walked. However, How many would walk to the Van Wezel? How many would walk to St. Armands? I don't think anybody would walk to the airport. So I think we have to recognize that walking is okay on short trips if you feel like doing it. What if you got up in years and had trouble with your feet? We can't depend on quote unquote walkability. When Duany came up with that, he was only in his 30s. I mean, you know, I bet you he wouldn't say much of it now. I mean, unless somebody was paying him really good and they wanted to hear that from him.
Thank you. Ms. Chapman.
First of all, I want to talk about density versus livability. Density does not correlate with livability unless there's careful planning. And that comes from an article from Atlantic Cities, February 6, 2013. And so dense cities often are very unlivable. With regard to our transportation plan, I'm all in favor of multimodal transportation. And that includes walkability, that includes bicycling. Bicycling, by the way, is 11% more effective for economic development than roads. What we have in our city, though, is not a very walkable city. Right turns on red. We can't cross. I live in a walk-to-town neighborhood. I can't cross Mound safely. Bike paths are discontinuous. One of the parts of the transit plan is that we need to have complete streets where you have bicycling, walking, and all the other transportation options together. We don't have that yet. I'm very skeptical about the mobility fee until we learn that that preserves transportation concurrency.
Okay, Mr. Lumpkin.
I was running a little bit late when I got here tonight. I think we all probably had the interview at the Herald today. So when I get here, and I didn't see many cars here, and I was wondering, thinking that there may not be many people here, but it's quite the opposite. And obviously, because a lot of people were able to walk here. Of course, that's not the total answer to everything, but a walkable downtown is phenomenal to me. That's what me and my wife try to do every weekend, and I think we probably end up spending more money and going to more stores because of that. So I think it's obviously one piece of the puzzle, but I think it's an important piece of the puzzle in making our city even greater and our downtown even greater. Thank you.
Mr. Dorfman.
Peter, could you repeat the question again?
On the,
Please.
okay, what we did is we took a poll of the audience to see how many walk here.
Right.
I'm sorry, thank you. We took a poll